Hi all, Adi here from Hunts and Johns. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Today I'm in deepest, darkest Sussex. Again, you might say. I have done a lot of videos from here, and right on cue there's some machinery going. I'm in Henfield and I'm going to explore this beautiful church, and also it is the burial place of one of my favourite horror writers, which is James Herbert. So I'm going to try and find his headstone and pay my respects. As you can hear, it's really noisy, so I'm going to do a voiceover. St Peter's Church isn't just any church. Its roots stretch far back, as early as 770 AD. There was a wooden church on this spot, high above what is now the village of Henfield. It's been a sacred site for well over a millennium, a place where villagers have gathered, prayed, marked births, marriages and sad farewells. By medieval times, the simple wooden structure had been replaced by stone. Parts of the current building date from the 13th and 14th centuries, and the 15th century brought the tower and the North Chapel, now known as the Parham Chapel, which I will show you in a few minutes. So walking through St Peter's today, you're still seeing elements of that medieval church. The nave, arcades of the four-bay layout from the later 13th century. The tower, built in sandstone with angle buttresses, is very typical of 15th century work. Inside, the piers supporting the arcade, the shape of the chancel arch, these hint at a long history. The chancel arch itself was carefully rebuilt during later restorations, sometimes reusing the original stones. The church as you see it nowadays is partly medieval, partly shaped by later centuries, and it's got a layering of history in stone, flint, timber, slate and tiles. If we jump forward to the 19th century, by then St Peter's was ready for a major restoration. And in 1870 to 1871, under the architects of the time, the church underwent extensive rebuilding. The chancel and aisles were renewed, many walls were refaced in flint with stone dressings, the roof was retiled and a larger, more open and spacious interior created. The old closed pews and galleries were removed, and the medieval style arcades were echoed in the new chancel. The nave roof opened up and more light was allowed in thanks to the added windows. The Victorian transformation didn't erase the medieval past as it has done in many other churches. Instead, this time it was built upon, blending centuries in a single living building. One of the aspects that often draws visitors' attention is the incredible stained glass windows. St Peter's has some of the finest in Sussex, with many windows designed by Charles Kempe, who you may know is a noted Victorian era master of stained glass windows. The chancel's east window, installed around 1874 by Kempe, shows the Nativity, the Crucifixion and several saints. In the north aisle, you'll find a Kempe window from 1903 depicting St Luke and St Paul, and there's another one, believe it or not, from 1907 by the firm James Powell and Son, showing fortitude and charity. And in the Parham Chapel, which we're going to go round to in a moment, there's a 5-light window which illustrates figures important to the church and to local history, including St Peter, the church's patron saint. All these windows, medieval bones, Victorian renovation, Edwardian artistry make the church interior feel alive with history and fate. It's a very light, airy church with a very nice, friendly atmosphere. The chapel was originally the Lady Chapel, and it was dedicated to the Virgin Mary, but was rededicated as the Parham Chapel. So it was done in honour of Henry Bishop, and it is a very beautiful part of the church, built in a lovely perpendicular style, and a lovely dedication there to those who lost their lives in the Great War. There's a book of remembrance there, and then just to the left there was a list of all the previous reverends and serving pastors of the church. Beautiful window, isn't it? In this section there's going to be two old chests. This one dates back to the 14th century, and it would have been of great importance. The church was the great building of Henfield and served for many secular functions as well as holy ones. All of the important documents of the medieval period and later would have been locked away in this chest. So it's kept everything safe for 700 years. We will see the other chest, which is Jacobean, on the way out. You'll see that in a moment, but aren't they lovely, the windows? Such a light church and airy, and just a wonderful warm feeling, I thought. This is really nice as well, the Last Supper. And this is the Jacobean chest. Look at the workmanship on that. Absolutely stunning. And that's it for inside the church. But I did notice hanging on the wall on my way in, there was this entry into the Domesday book for Henfield. So everything that the parish owned then, and you can see that the de Brose, of Brose it says, but William de Brose, who I have done a video on Bramber Castle and Bramber Church if you're interested in the de Brose family. He was gifted the land after the Norman conquest, and he owned a huge part of this part of Sussex, and there's the charter of King Osmond. And I thought I'd show you around the lovely churchyard, because as you step out into the churchyard, it's honestly like another world out here. The paths curve and snake around, and there's also all these beautiful ancient yew trees that line the paths. There's rows and rows of them. There are reportedly over 100 tall yew bushes lining paths and approaches to the church. It's a lovely, remarkable feature that gives the place a sense of calm, age and timelessness. And I spotted this beautiful Celtic cross over in the corner, and I thought I'd just pop over and have a closer look, although I couldn't really read anything on there, unfortunately. So the yew trees that line the paths have grown over decades, perhaps centuries, and they stand as like living witnesses to the generations of villagers here in Henfield who have passed through, visited, prayed, buried loved ones, and maybe got married in this church. Now, many of the gravestones out here in the churchyard date from the 18th and the 19th centuries. Some are very modest, some are quite substantial. They're covered in moss, loads of them are weathered and overgrown like this one. But each one marks a story, a life once lived. And I often wonder about the people that were buried here and wish I could find out more about their stories. I know some people do, and I'd love to have the time, but I really don't at the moment. And you can see up straight ahead another row of the perfectly lined yew trees. and I found a few more hidden right at the back of the churchyard. I don't know if this has just become really overgrown or if it's an unmarked plot. I don't know, to be honest. I couldn't find out any information, but it's very, very peaceful here, with the lovely clipped yews, the gravestones, the gently worn paths, and they really combine to create a sense of continuity for the village. So over centuries, many would have known this spot for baptisms, weddings, funerals, Sunday worship, and just for quiet contemplation. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it. I was talking to the church warden and their wonderful lady. It's so beautifully kept in there, and they had underfloor heating. It was so warm in there. It's usually colder in the churches than it is outside, but it was really warm in there. I had a lovely conversation. She was showing me around, showed me some of the Kempe windows and that. And I also realised that I've actually come to the wrong church. James Herbert is a couple of miles down the road in St Peter's of Woodmancote, which is exactly the same name church, and it's in the same parish, so I got it wrong. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please do like and subscribe and hit the hype button, and also in the description there is the Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to buy me a coffee and help support the channel, because I always make a donation to the churches and the historical buildings that I visit, because I think it's really, really important that the history is kept for future generations. And these buildings, the lady in here was just telling me, I want to say about £5,000 a week for the 3 parish churches, which is quite extraordinary. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I shall see you for the next one.